Several minutes of commercial-free football starts now.
Here are the Purple Mortgage Guys.
Hey, welcome everybody to another episode of Purple Mortgage Guys. Joined tonight with Goose, myself, Brent. A couple mortgage guys in the mortgage business. We love talking about Vikings football, so we started a show. We usually have Tanner on here with us, but he couldn't make it tonight. So, Goose, we just wanted to recap what was probably one of the, most boring games, ugliest games. It was an interesting game. We'll leave it at that. Vikings Bears in Chicago. I was fortunate enough to be there, I guess, if you would say that, on the way to a work event here and stopped at the game and took that in. Goose, it felt like it was the worst game we've played all season. I know we didn't have JJ, so that's an obvious maybe excuse or reason, but all in all, it was just not it felt like a loss, and maybe a loss would have been better for the big picture. I don't know that we want to go down that path right away, but overall thoughts. It seemed like an ugly game. We did win 13-19, but it felt like we could easily have lost that game until the final interception there to kind of seal the deal. So, Goose, what did you think watching on TV? What did it look like? Did it pass the eye test? And overall thoughts on the game?
I think the hard thing for me I feel like I was kind of expecting it. Like, I feel like the Bears are kind of trending upwards. We're without JJ. We've been struggling with JJ, and I knew we were going to be potentially a little bit one-dimensional against the Bears, and it was uglier than I'd like to see. I think the tough thing was we finally got that lead that we've been looking for a long time, and KOC kind of went into like almost like a Mike Zimmer-esque like play calling where it was like trying runs and like fullback. I'm still not sure what happened on that one play that they somehow called intentional grounding where the ball went directly over CJ Ham's head.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the play design was, which I don't know if it was a fullback screen or if that was truly a dump off, or some plays our O-line does so bad that it looks like a screenplay, and I can't tell what the design was, but it just seemed like KOC got ultra conservative with the lead. And I think especially against a team like the Bears, like just like step on their neck and finish the game. I think our defense played pretty well. They forced turnovers, which was big. It's kind of funny the names that you saw in the rumors as far as like potential trade targets. I feel like all played well.
Mm-hmm.
Harry was kind of quiet, but Hicks had a pretty stellar game. Daniil is still putting together, I think, the season we had all hoped to see from him for quite a while now if he can stay healthy. I mean, they dug out a win. The hard thing that's going to break my heart with this team is that normally I'm Mr. Optimistic. I've pretty much gotten to the point of we'll see, and I don't really have any hopes. But I look at the NFC playoff picture, and
Ooh, I didn't know we were going into playoff picture after that one.
Well, I just with all the talk of draft spots and trading, like I feel like you have to consider.
Yeah.
And kind of my segue there is a lot of people online are saying, well, we don't want to back into the playoffs and get booted round one and jeopardize a draft pick. The hard thing with this team this year about feeling that way is we very well could have beat the Chiefs. We very well could have beat the Eagles. We'll see how we do against the Niners. But if this is a team that hits their stride at the right time, like maybe we can beat anyone. And they haven't proven that they can do it at this point, but we've really only beat ourselves, and it's hard to give up on a season like that. So I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what to do.
It does feel like play up to the competition and down to the competition, which was always kind of the Mike Zimmer thing too. So maybe you're onto something with the play calling with KOC. Maybe it's a Kirk Cousins thing. I don't know. It seems like sitting there when we were up, I think it was 13, and we got the ball back. I'm like, okay, we can just put this one away, game over, and then we let them back into it. I think it was the series after that intentional grounding play. think KJ was wide open down the left side, and he looked frustrated because I don't think Kirk even looked his way. And I'm like wide open. I think a corner let him go basically.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see some of the playbacks and some of those to see if it was Kirk just trying to like let's not screw it up. We got the lead, but man, they were driving the ball down. If not for that duck that they just threw up at the end, Murphy coming down with it. I don't know. I think I texted you. I'm like, this is a 19-20 loss, isn't it? It was like that. The Greg
Felt
Joseph
like that.
blocked extra point felt like it was going to be the difference there for a while. So,
Yeah.
what did you think, Goose? We haven't even talked about this yet. Alexander Madison getting 18 touches, targeted a ton with some of these little dump offs and checkdowns. Cam Akers gets one touch, goes for what, 9 yards, looks pretty good, stayed on his feet, spun around a little bit, and then he didn't touch the ball the rest of the game. Like, what's going on there? What's the theory why that makes sense? Because it doesn't seem like it does.
No, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And if you wanted to be hypercritical, you could maybe say like his effort to like bat that ball out of bounds, but you can't because Madison's turned the ball over like crazy. Like you can't say, oh, Cam had a hand in one turnover. Like no one else is being held accountable. So I almost think that KOC needs. I'm sure they exist, but they need to be more vocal in his ear on like snap counts and who's doing what with their touches because it doesn't seem like there's any in game of like, hey, so and so is producing, like ride the hot hand. Um, it's just it's pretty unexplainable. I also had kind of a one thing just to finish kind of my playoff picture is even though that's looking pretty far ahead. So the division winners like they'll change, but they make a lot of sense right now. Eagles, Niners, Lions, Buccaneers. So
Mm-hmm.
that leaves 3 spots, which is currently the Seahawks, the Cowboys, and the Rams are in right now. On the bubble, Commanders, Falcons, Saints, Packers, Vikings, Giants, Bears, Cardinals, Panthers. Like it just doesn't feel like of those 3 spots, like that it's way out of the
None of
question.
them really even seem like playoff teams, do they?
No.
Like
So
at first glance.
it's going to be a hard season to give up on, and I don't think any true fan wants their team to tank and blow it because you could turn around and miss the pick. So we saw some of these quarterbacks. Shador's had a lot of losses now and a pick that kind of sealed the game. Caleb Williams had a really tough. I think you learn that, and it's not fair to judge a prospect off of one college performance, but you kind of remember, oh, there's still a prospect. Like there's no guarantee that they're just going to come into the NFL and light the league on fire. So I think you always try to win and you pick where you need to pick. And if you can trade I'd rather trade a bunch of picks than to get up than to tank.
I was just going to say the same thing. I'm totally on board with if the next couple of weeks don't go well. I think the trade deadline is October 31, right? So if the next couple of weeks look pretty bad, and today really didn't look great, they just happened to come out on the other end. But they've obviously also played well and then shot themselves in the foot and not looked well, not looked good or not had the great result either. So it's hard to say. But if they don't look good the next couple of weeks, I'm right there with you. I would rather have them trade some of the guys that aren't going to be back next year anyway, accumulate some picks, whether you're picking, I don't know, 9th or 14th, if you've got some picks to be able to move up and get your guy, problem solved. Like you said, there's not a sure thing. I know Judy would, one of the listeners, Judy had made a comment like she wants to move up, and get that top 5 pick. I don't think they're bad enough. The Vikings aren't, at least they haven't shown. If they keep playing like they did today, maybe that is a possibility.
Right.
And again, they won, which is crazy. But they don't seem like they're a top 5 team unless Kirk gets hurt or they, trade 4 or 5 guys. Maybe that becomes more of a reality. But I'm right there with you. Like accumulate the draft picks if the next couple of weeks don't go well. I recorded one on Friday, Goose, without you and Tanner, and basically said if they lost today, like season's over. Don't think I feel a ton more optimistic, but you don't know. San Francisco's got, I think, three key guys dinged up in Trent
Yeah.
Williams, Christian McCaffrey, and Debo. So not expecting a win, but again, they play to their competition is what it feels like. So it wouldn't shock me if the game's a lot closer than people think.
Well, it seems like every year the team that wins the Super Bowl, like there's lulls in the season for almost every team, and it's just about getting hot at the right time. And so maybe there's something to starting really slow and things are going to come together. But like that, granted, the Browns have an insane defense, maybe the best in the league, but the Niners didn't look very good today, and the Eagles didn't look great either. And the Chiefs have yet to really like handle an opponent. Even the top end of the league right now, like no one looks dominant, and so it'll be interesting once it comes down to it.
I think you're a little bit more optimistic than me. I guess I really wanted to see them today, especially with the way the game unfolded when you've got this, what was it, Division II quarterback. I can't even pronounce his last name. I had never heard of the guy before today, if I'm being honest. Maybe you have. But when that happens, I really wanted him to just go out and win by 20, 23 points, whatever it would have been when they had the 13-point lead. And instead, It came down to defense made a play, which is great. But it just didn't give a ton of optimism to be like, okay, we flipped the switch. We're going to be okay. It just didn't feel that way. So,
yeah,
Goose, I got a question for you. If I would have told you after the way last season played out, remember after the Giants game where we made Daniel Jones look like the second coming of, I don't know who you want to say, Drew Brees in his prime. I mean, he was just lighting it up, right? You remember that, obviously.
Yeah.
If I would have said, okay, we're going to bring in Flores, the defense is going to be a lot better, be respectable. They're going to make some key plays to help us in some games. The offensive line is going to be respectable. Man, you would have had to think like maybe it's not 13-4 again, or too much different record-wise, but you'd have to think, man, I'd feel a lot better about the team as a whole, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And it just does not feel that way right now. I don't know.
No, but I mean, I feel like I was a broken record last year complaining about our offense of like what they should be with the weapons that they have and what they are week in, week out. Like last year, our defense was a lot more opportunistic. Like they gave up all the yards and they probably had more of these turnovers that we saw today. And I just wanted the offense to like single-handedly win a game last year, and I feel like they didn't. Like there had to be like the fluke fumble that went our way or the interception and our offense coming around. And I'm really starting to kind of second guess KOC as an offensive mind. And then as much as I like good player morale and people to like be on the same page and have a good culture, like to see KOC like give this inspired speech about like stumbling through a win against the Bears on the road. It's an in-division win on the road, which is always important. But I mean, we've got 2 wins this year against maybe the 2 worst teams in the NFL. And after both wins, it was like, what did I tell you? Like it seems too rah-rah. Like part of me wants every once in a while for there to be like, hey, we won, but like, that's not
It's embarrassing.
good.
Yeah.
Like we need to be better. And I want to see some more of that. One other thing I thought about was it seems like week in, week out, we see these D lines that terrorize our offense. And especially the games this week, like watching a little bit of the Niners and Browns, like their D lines are stacked. And then I saw Saquon. I think he finally broke a few tonight, but I was counting on him in one of my fantasy games, and he had like 18 carries for like 23 yards. And it's just brutal performance. But you look at the Giants D line, Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau and all these like super high draft picks. And I think about our D line right now, and if you count Daniil and Davenport as just edge guys, like our 3 interior guys are like pretty no name average. And so I think that's probably our biggest weakness. And I'd like to see a little bit more of what Asamoah has. So I've been thinking like I want to see some more, maybe not solely 4-3, but I'd like to see some more 4-3 sets with Davenport back at D end, Daniil at D end, and now you only have two of those three guys in Harrison Phillips and probably Dean Lowry or Blacklock or Kyrus Tunga. But you only have two of them instead of the three that are kind of a liability. And then you get Ivan Pace and Hicks and Asamoah on the field, and you can still do some 3 safety sets. But I think our glaring weakness is our interior D line, and 3-4 just you're stuck with all three of them and trying to rotate these backup caliber NFL players, and it's hard to watch every week.
They say anything more about Davenport? Is it an ankle, or what they say on the broadcast?
When the broadcast, I felt bad because, like most weeks, I was kind of annoyed with the broadcast, and then I realized one of them was Robert Smith, and I was like, oh, he's our own. But they kind of acted like they didn't know he's been battling an injury all year, but it seemed like he was hobbling on his ankle. So I think it's probably the same ankle that's been bugging him. I haven't watched a lot of game stuff today, so the game pretty much finished up, and my daughter woke up from her nap, and we went out, and my allergies are bugging me, but I have a lot of post game stuff to dig into still.
Nice. Any other thoughts on we got San Francisco and then at Green Bay, which I think is always going to be a tough game outside on grass. Just in Green Bay the last few years has been pretty brutal. Then at Atlanta, I believe, and then we host the Saints. And then we go out to Denver, I believe. So a lot of winnable games coming up, depending on which team shows up. The good news is, Goose, I don't believe there were any fumbles today by the offense.
They counted Kirk's
as a fumble.
Yeah. I think probably I'm trying to think, minimum next 4 weeks is going to be my same sentiment. I can't keep talking myself into maybe we can shock the world against 49ers, but I think the next 4 weeks is going to be a battle of you try to win as many as you can. You're going to have to scrap through, especially without JJ. And if you can just hang in the mix as long as possible, NFC picture is going to be wide open. Like we've said a bunch, it seems like we've only beat ourselves this year. And if you get hot at the right time, anything can happen. So my expectations are low, but I look at it and I understand it's doable if we just stay the course. And maybe that's why KOC's been super rah-rah. He's just trying to get them to weather the storm.
So I don't have the schedule in front of me, but I believe the bye comes after the Denver game. Is that right?
There's
a bye before that.
We have a late bye this year. Let's see.
The bye might actually be. I think there's that Chicago one was going to be on Monday night. That'll get flexed out, I would assume. But the bye might be after that.
Yeah. Chicago's November 27th next game, Raiders 12-10. So it looks like.
Yeah. So you could, I don't want to be a homer here, but you could actually make a pretty compelling case that they could be 7-6, 6-7, probably even 7-6 going into the bye, which would feel like a huge accomplishment considering the way things started. So I don't know. It really just depends. I feel like the offense needs to start clicking and pushing the ball downfield. Addison's probably the guy that's stepping up. Hawkinson, I did see a stat. We get on him for dropping a lot of balls, but I think he's got like a 78% catch completion on targets or something, fairly high. So
yeah, I saw the same thing. I had to look at it 3 times just because it didn't seem right. But yeah, it's possible. I want Kirk to play like he's behind by 2 scores.
Thank you. That's exactly right. just pretend you're down 14. You got nothing to lose. Like, let's just rip it off, rip the Band-Aid off. What's the worst that happens? Like,
right.
What we've done so far is not going to get it done. So
It seems like so few of his turnovers are like throwing into tight coverage. It's normally like a batted ball or really boneheaded where we're like, what are you doing throwing it late to the outside like that? So I'd like him to give his guys more of a shot. And there was a couple times today, even one, he was in the end zone. So I give him a little bit of a pass because you don't want to risk like a holding call in the end zone, but he had a perfectly clean pocket. He was sitting back. He had tons of time. It was actually kind of weird to see. And he dumped it off again to TJ for like 3 yards. And I was just like, there's got to be either someone breaking open or you don't have anywhere close to pressure yet. Like, just give it some time. And I'm sure he's got an internal clock right now that's just broken of like constant pressure. But
the pressure's it's not as bad as people think this year.
Right.
It's almost like he's seeing ghosts sometimes or something. So,
yeah.
I don't know. Do you find yourself during these games just going back and forth? I know you're a Kirk guy. Like, you still believe in him. Do you find yourself going back and forth?
It's more like little moments, and part of that is probably because the NFL doesn't do as good of a job as I wish they would when to maybe take some of this downtime to show like a developing route or something that's missed.
I agree.
So it's hard to tell, but with you at the game, like talking about KJ breaking wide open, it was like, oh, like I couldn't see that on TV. So it's so hard to tell when Kirk's making maybe a good decision and when there was something there and he's just not taking chances. So
I feel like a lot of these, I don't know what you call them, full, like all 22 views or whatever, they always pop up like a day or two after the game. And then it's always like, man, I can't believe.
Yeah.
I mean, it's even Mahomes, Josh Allen, those they miss miss opportunities too. But it just seems like it's kind of the norm lately. So
for sure.
Well, anything else to put a bow on the Chicago game?
I don't think so. We'll just have to keep on trying to stumble into victories.
Be watching injury reports this week. Both sides of the ball, both teams. So
yeah,
we'll see. Goose, have a good week. We'll be back again probably Thursday or Friday. Hit a new episode, and we'll look forward to Monday night against San Francisco. Any idea what the line is? Early indications? It's probably not even out there yet because of the injuries. I would guess probably San Francisco by about 4 or 5.
It's worse than that. It's San Fran by 7.
Oof.
And the matchup predictor has San Fran 70.8%.
You're saying there's a chance.
Yeah. Let's just hope we get this like last couple week Brock Purdy, and then maybe, just maybe, there's a shot. But that 49ers defense scares me the way our offense is been playing.
They're coming off a loss, so they're going to be super focused all week. Got an extra day.
Yeah.
Not oozing with confidence here. So, all right. Have a great week, everybody. Goose, have a good week. We'll talk to you guys later.